Hey everybody, I'm here with Derrick Brite. He's actually one of our professors here at BTS, and would love to just take a minute or two just to introduce you to him. And so Derrick, tell us a little bit about what you're currently doing now.
Yeah, so my primary role is I'm a senior pastor, solo pastor actually, at First Presbyterian Church in Aliceville, Alabama.
Yeah.
Small rural community, about 45 minutes outside of Tuscaloosa. I've been there for 5 years, and I also teach for BTS and do some other things as well. And I'm currently finishing, hopefully soon, my PhD at Puritan Seminary.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Now, what do you teach with BTS?
So I primarily teach systematic theology.
Okay.
I really focus on the doctrine of God and some other covenant theology, but I also teach the Westminster Confession as well.
Yeah. And as one of our professors, what's your interaction been like with students in the classroom? Do you feel like you're getting a good quality student?
Oh goodness, yes. They far exceed any expectations I have. Very proud professor moments, and I have a few that have really stood out to me. I'll tell you one actually from my first semester.
Sure.
I had a student who was finishing up his time, and he was going to undertake his ordination exams in the PCA. And I had a friend from that presbytery. I didn't even know the student was being examined that day. He had just finished my class a couple weeks prior. And on the Westminster Confession, actually. And I had a friend from that presbytery text me and say, "Hey, man, your student is doing a great job, and he is knocking this out of the park." And it wasn't any really testament to me, but he was one of those students who, even after class, we'd have phone conversations. And that's something that I've loved about my time with a lot of our students. Is they have my cell phone number. They can call me with whether it's needs or academic questions or whatever the case is. And so it's one of those roles of course, it's my calling and my responsibility to teach you systematic theology and the Westminster Confession. But we all have a role to play in the kingdom, and they're playing a role, whether they know it or not, in my own life. And by the way that they pursue their academic education, but also their personal spiritual lives, is a great benefit and encouragement to me as well.
That's fantastic. I mean, I don't think people really understand the weight of that in the BTS model, in the sense of this is not just show up and then somebody talks at you.
That's right.
That there's actually a lot of give and take and back and forth, and because our professors, just like you, are actually doing ministry, and a lot of our students are actually doing ministry.
That's right.
They're working this out and actually encouraging each other in real time, which I think is a super benefit to kind of the BTS model.
That's right, yeah. Well, and I'll tell you, one of the things that I learned when I was in seminary that I've tried to pass on here to our students is I like to, especially after we've studied some really deep, nuanced topic, especially on the doctrine of God, to stop and say, okay, now so what?
Yes.
Why does this matter?
Right.
Some of you are counselors, some of you are stay-at-home moms, some of you are going to go into the ministry, some of you are already in ministry.
Yeah.
How does this apply, and how can you use this? And I think the students have appreciated that, but what's actually been interesting is for them to turn it around on me and say, hey, professor, you've taught us this. Help me connect the dots here. And it shows that they're thinking about this. This is not just a purely academic, though we obviously need to stress high academic standards.
Of course.
But it's not just purely academic. These students are on the ground really wanting to get to the nuts and bolts and how do these great truths apply. And that's just been a very encouraging thing to see.
That's great. And do you feel like even in the classroom, because a lot of times we have students that they'll take live video conference, they might not be sitting there.
That's right.
Do you feel like even in the midst of that there's still really good interaction between professor and student to student, to where you can still get kind of, for lack of a better phrase, the full seminary experience?
Oh, absolutely.
That's been your experience?
Absolutely. And we've tried to, in my classes, we've tried to accomplish that in a number of ways. One, I typically have myself, I do lecture, obviously, traditionally, but I have a pretty open door question policy as far as if you've got a question, you don't necessarily have to wait, right? Just go ahead. If it's burning in your soul, you've got to, it's really hit you. Let's deal with it. And then I also let other students sometimes take shot at answering those and getting them interacting. Another thing I try to do that I think has been beneficial is in some classes I'll have them give almost like what you would do in some PhD seminars, where you give a brief presentation of the thesis of your paper to the class, and let the class ask some questions to you. And that's fostered a lot of really healthy discussion, because what might happen is you say, oh, I'm writing on, on Christology and Christ's human nature. And somebody might fire up and go, I have a question. How does the Holy Spirit relate to that?
Right.
And they go, oh, Well, I've actually been thinking, and all of a sudden it leads to this
Yes.
very fruitful discussion.
Yeah.
And so now you've got not only interaction from me, but you've got other interaction from the students, and they're coming together.
Yeah.
And so it's been a beautiful thing to see.
Well, I mean,
as
that's
well, too.
fantastic. I mean, in the sense of you are almost fostering the relational side of ministry even as you study, but then also at a really high academic level
That's right.
where you're having nuanced
That's
discussions
right.
like
That's
that.
right, yeah.
But you're actually getting to know each other, even though you might live in different parts of the country and even different parts of the world.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, one other question that I would have is, for anybody who's out there who might be watching this video who might be considering starting up classes with BTS, and they're trying to figure out, what is this going to look like? Am I going to get a good education? Am I going to be able to interact? What encouragement would you offer to a prospective student out there who's considering BTS?
Yeah, so let me, because I'm a preacher primarily,
Right.
let me sum up really, I guess you could say a pitch, if you will, for BTS, and I've got 3 F's.
There you go.
All right, the first is faculty.
Okay.
We have great faculty, and I'm not just saying that because I'm on the faculty, okay?
Right.
You could take me out of the equation.
Yeah, sure.
But you have really high-level academic training. Everyone here has really put in the effort and the time, but also many of them, the majority of them, have served and are serving in ministry context.
Sure.
So we have great faculty. Secondly, I would say finances.
Yep.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Seminary is not a cheap
No.
venture, and
No.
it's an obstacle for many people. And a lot of times when you get a seminary that is affordable, you go, why are you affordable?
Why are you affordable?
Right?
Yes.
But in this case, because we have the high academic faculty, and because we're structured the way we are, it allows it to stay affordable. So
Yep.
finances are no longer an obstacle, and there's scholarships on top of already a
Yes.
very agreeable price.
Yes.
And then third, and I think most importantly, is family. What I mean by that is a little bit of what I expressed earlier. BTS is a family. Yes, we're an institution. Yes, we grade. Yes, we have diplomas and all those
Sure.
things. But there's something about seeing BTS students, BTS faculty, board members, whether you're at a General Assembly, whether you're at a conference or a church or whatever the case is, there's a bond there. We've done this together. We're in this together. There's mutual encouragement. It's more of it's almost like an old school fraternity in some ways, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you went through this together, and
Yeah.
for years and years down the road, those are the people that you're going to be in ministry with. You're
Yes.
going to be on your knees with praying.
Yes.
And so faculty, finances, and family,
Yeah, that's
those
great.
3 things come together beautifully here at BTS.
Yeah, that's great. And I hope that's an encouragement to those of you who out there who might be considering BTS and you're weighing the different models and the different schools out there, that maybe just a little bit of insight from one of our professors and how they're interacting with other students is maybe helpful for you. Obviously, we would love to help you start your journey with BTS, and would love for you to take a class with Derrick one of these days. And thanks for taking a couple minutes. Just tell us about BTS. It's been a
Glad to
joy.
do it. Yeah, it's great. Thanks.
Thanks, man.